So today I wanted to go over something that kind of came to mind. I fixed this mower and it runs good now, no problem. Redid the pull cord, all that. If you've watched this video, thumbs is up for me. But I was kind of on the fence on whether or not I should keep it. And the reason why is this. I am 6'4". That lawnmower, I'm pretty sure, was never meant to have a 6'4" person. Let me demonstrate. Now, is it really bad? No, it's not. It's legitimately only an inch or two shorter than what I originally wanted, or what I have. I currently have a Toro recycler, or super recycler, I forget. But that one is adjustable. I have it on a tall setting, it's comfortable, I've got used to it. Problem is this one has no adjustment. So that brought up an idea for me to kind of bring up a video. How do you choose the mower for you? I want to say it comes down to a couple options. Now, this is what I do. This is no way, shape, or form probably 100% what everyone should do. Obviously, if you're a professional, you should not take this advice. You should use what fits your business need. If you see anything smoky, that's the reason why. But, so, it comes down to a couple things. At least I would say for most people, because it comes down to for me. One is, what are you using it for? Are you the type of person that is going to be mowing 2, 3, even 4 times a day, depending on the type of grass you have? Or are you the person that doesn't really, I don't want to say care, but just wants to have something clean and mows it on the weekend? Another thing to think about is price. Do you want to spend upwards of $600, $700, $800, $900 even, maybe even more? Or do you want to get by with $250? There's accessories and compatibilities. I mean, compatibilities is, does it mulch? Does it have a side chute? Does it have self-propel? All those things are important. And then probably the most important is it comfortable? Are you going to use it? Is it going to be a giant pain to use it? And are you going to dread mowing the lawn? Because if you dread it, it's never going to happen. So let's go over a couple of things. Comfortability. Obviously, when you go to the store and you look at some of them, they're probably on display. You can't always go and feel them, stand behind them, everything. But if you can have the opportunity, I highly suggest it. If you can buy one used, you go ahead and do that. So stand behind it and just kind of go through a little bit of emotion. That will be the best way to figure out if it's comfortable. That's how I knew I wasn't quite sure about this one. Features. So every one of them is going to have a lot of the same things. Nothing's really going to be all that different. Couple things to look for is, how does it start? Does it have a choke? Automatic choke system. So it means we don't have to do anything. We literally pull and mow. Sometimes you have to have a little primer bulb. Sometimes you actually have a manual choke. Sometimes it's a little pull. You never know. Just know that when you get into the automatic features, your likelihood of a problem is higher than anything else. So another thing to look at, it kind of goes where, the first one, which I kind of want to leave up to last, because I want to arguably say it's the second most important, is what features do you need? I would always recommend a mulching mower. How do you know you have a mulching mower? Well, when you start seeing stuff like this, it tells you it cuts in certain ways, or if it comes with special attachments like a mulch plug, if it doesn't even have a bag and doesn't have a side chute, you're pretty much guaranteed that you're gonna have a mulcher. So a lot of times I'll even say it, like 3-in-1, bag side mulch. So I would always, in my opinion, get a mulching mower. Self-propel. Now, before I had a hill, self-propel was basically a necessity. Now I don't really need it because everything's level, which is something to think about. Do you really need it? Do you really want it? Is it really necessary? If you have a lot of ground to cover, yeah, probably is. If it's, this section, which I know looks horrible, we'll get to a different video on that. But, if it's just a small little area, is it worth the expense? Is it worth the hassle? Is it worth anything? It's something to think about. How it propels. Now that's a pretty important one if you think about it. This one has this little lever. It's pretty easy. Some of them have like another bar or brake, kind of like the brake here. Some of them have, a couple other, like a push handle, and you just kind of let go a little bit and it locks it out of place. Those are fairly old, but you can still find them online if you really look, especially if someone's selling it used. Then to make it even more complicated, you have rear and front. Rear is going to be more expensive. It's going to be a little bit more beneficial. Front is going to be helpful, but it's going to be it's going to be cheaper, and it does come with a bit of a problem with jumping, but how the quality of cut, where you really wanting here. So it's something to think about. Because if you go over a bump with front, you could potentially kind of, I don't want to say push, but you'll get like a jolt a little bit, and you'll notice it. Rear, very rare, and that happens. Bag, I would definitely recommend getting one with a bag. It's very convenient. There's times when you do not want to mulch. There's times when you do want to mulch. Now, I'm probably going to have people hate on this one, but in my opinion, I don't understand why you need to have a side chute. I mean, I'm sure people out there love it. Great for them. Some people think other opinions about stuff that I like. So, leave it to that. Whatever you want, though, keep that in mind when you're looking for the features. I personally would never buy one with a side chute, and if I do, I will never use it. I've had owned some with them. I've never used it. That little attachment literally goes in the recycling bin. Other features, some of them have like keyless start, or not key, electric start. There we go. Others can fold up to have less space. Others, there's a couple other higher end options you can get, and what's really kind of goes with the other one is price. How big of a yard do you have? How much do you really have to mow? How often are you mowing? Those are things to think about when you're doing these price comparisons. Now, I can say I, on occasion, will end up having to mow at least 3 times a week. Sometimes, usually though, it is only 2. Usually it's Wednesday and Saturday, maybe Sunday. And that's it. That will keep it clean. It will keep everything nice and healthy. That's good. Knowing that, though, I do have to cover this every 3 to 4 days. That's a decent amount of time. Do I want to have to replace mowers every 1 or 2 years because I bought a cheap one, even though it was self-propel? No. So I might equate more of my budget to a mower, which kind of goes hand in hand with if you do have a pretty strict budget and you need other tools. Not that I'm saying they're not as important, but a mower definitely would be a higher priority in my opinion. Weed eater is good. You can get cheap weed eaters. They're pretty much the same as expensive weed eaters if you don't use them all that much. If you are going to get a cheap weed eater, though, get electric. It's just, you're going to save yourself a lot of hassle. if you're gonna get a decent one, gas is definitely the way to go. Don't get me wrong, but cheap weed eaters, get electric. So, knowing that you should spend the majority of your budget on a mower, find one that will also not break a bank, but gives you a certain reliability. Now, if you only have 200 or 300 square feet to mow every one or two or once a week, a $200 mower is completely fine. $150 mower. You can probably go to a big box store and get very plain, basic mulcher, no bag, no nothing, no choke. You just prime it, just complete bare bones. I don't know, $100, maybe less, maybe more. It just depends on where you live, I suppose. But that's something to think about. Hey, I would never buy one of those for if you're gonna be mowing 4, 5, 6,000 square feet. You will hate life, and it'll only last until maybe the 4th of July. That's it. Which kind of brings to the first one. Now, like I said, that's kind of, in my opinion, one of the important factors on it. What are you really doing? Everyone would love to have very nice mower, expensive, but what are you really doing? Are you needing gas? Are you needing electric? Would one of them serve better for you? If you're having a big yard, I wouldn't recommend electric, especially since you might have to be carrying a cord, and if you have a battery, maybe your battery won't last as long. Batteries have been getting better, but you never know. Maybe it's the springtime and it's a little wet, and you're just having to go over something 2-3 times to pick up all the grass, and you don't want to leave it setting on the lawn. That's a possibility. What if it's overgrown and you have to mow it 2 or 3 times? So keep all those ideas in check. If you are going to get a battery, though, make sure the maximum time that they allot is half of the time you usually only have to mow. If it says it has a 2-hour battery, you better not be mowing for more than an hour every time on average. Now, if you are that person that will like to mow all the time, keep a very manicured lawn, keep it very nice and neat and trimmed, that's something to think about too. That is something that you need to think about when you're looking at the options. So if you, knowing what you're going to need it for, knowing your budget, knowing the features you want, and knowing if it's going to be comfortable, that's 4, not 3. Those are the majority of what I would say is the most important things to consider when buying one or purchasing, or whatever you want to say. Borrowing, maybe return it, who knows. We all know those people. But having said that, I'm going to give you a couple recommendations. Now, based on my name, I live in the Northwest. We typically do not have huge lawns here. I have a fairly decent sized, and even then, it's small in comparison to some other parts of the country. It's big in other parts though. So, if you are going to be mowing less than, let's say, anywhere between 500 to 1,500 square feet of grass, find a entry level, I would always say self-propelled mower that has a bag. You should be good for a couple years, as long as you maintain it and take care of it like I explained. Now, if you have less than that, go ahead and just get a push. There's no point. You're really not ever going to be needing it. It's not, unless you're super out of shape, you're going to be able to push it and it's going to be fine. So that's a pretty good one. Now, if you're a little over there, once you start getting into, let's say 4,000 to 5,000 square feet, anything in between the two ranges from the cheaper one to the 5,000 square feet. So what was that? I'd say 2,000 to 5,000 square feet. You're going to want something like this. This is what this mower was meant for. For that amount, it's durable, it's reliable, it will give you some comfort, and you're not going to have to replace it all the time because you're mowing, but you're not mowing a lot. If you're getting even higher than that, we're talking, you can even push this up to 7. Let's just say 7,000 square feet. But if you are getting into the 7,500 to 10,000s, or even above, you at that point really need to think about the deck size. You really need to think about honestly getting a rider. Then one like this would just be for like the corner areas that you can't get for your rider. I'm not even going to touch on riders, that's a different video. If you are watching this video and you need a rider, then find something else. But if you do have that need, something like this is very useful. That really comes down to comfort at that point. That's where I'm at, is find one that's comfortable for you. Find one that has a self-propel, that has a bag, that has some type of automatic choke system, or at least a choke that's easy to operate, and has a quality bag. That's a pretty important one, quality bag, because you don't want a hole in your bag the first year or two. And then that's it. You'll be good to go. Routine stuff, mowing, changing the oil, all that stuff will come in time. But when you first buy it, know that those are things I would always say you need to have. So that's kind of my opinion on this subject. I'm sure everyone has their own, but if you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them below. If you, let's say you have 3,500 and you're kind of on the fence if you should go up in price, maybe you can't afford it, or maybe you just want to find a different idea or a different type, or throw out some ideas, leave a comment on that one. Something to think about on budget too is you can always find good used ones. Don't think you can't. Some of them you can, and if you watch some of my videos, that's a real good way to stretch that dollar even more and get this, because like I said, I paid almost nothing for this, and it is new for $500, maybe more. I don't even know, to be honest. And that's a good way to stretch it. It gets you what you want and gets you what you need. It's good to go. So when looking at budget, also think about that. Well, I hope that answers a few things. If you're kind of wondering what one you should get, and you are in those scenarios or those circumstances, those square footages, and you are kind of on the fence if you should get to a higher quality or lower, or even what features you would need, I hope this helped out. Those additional features, like I mentioned, that are like electric start, at that point you're really just kind of adding to your budget, unless you have a physical need. No, don't worry about that. Those things are just prone to failure. You're just going to be hating yourself, which actually is something that maybe I'll bring up now. I was going to do a separate video, but maybe I'll just put them all in one. Stuff that you do not need. And I'm sure there's going to be people who say that they are necessities, but an average person that's capable, that has no disability or anything, that has able-bodied, I'll just say that, what they do not need electric start. Not necessary. You're changing your batteries all the time. Don't worry about it. And this is kind of useless. Some of them have these little ports right here. Kind of useless. They're supposed to be there to wash the bottom end of the deck. They do, but very poorly. Don't even bother with it. Just don't even bother with it. You'll never get a good solid clean out of it. The best thing to do is to clean it, tip it over, spray it, scrape it off. Whatever you do, you'll get a better cleaning on there. So if that's gonna persuade you, don't bother. It's completely just a frill item. Next one is all-wheel drive. Now, it sounds good, but I've used a Husqvarna all-wheel drive, and they are definitely, they move, don't get me wrong. Can I tell a difference between a rear? No, very little. That just adds a whole lot of money to your expense, and it's kind of useless in my opinion. That one is a little harder for me to bring up, but when thinking back on it, I can't really see that big of a difference, especially for the price. That's just a feature you don't need. Now, if it's one's on sale and it has that, then go right ahead. The price is not a problem. They probably took it off. Go ahead. Might as well. Just know that the maintenance on that's going to be a whole lot harder and a little bit more expensive. The belts are a lot longer, and if you were to break anything on it, that's not a repair charge you want to have to pay. And I know a couple people are really going to hate this, but this is one feature I never understood why they put on there. And that's one adjustment for all four wheels. That to me is stupid. Let me explain why. Imagine I was going to be mowing this area, and I don't want to have to go over all the way, and I want to cut over. I want to have a nice level area. I don't want the wheels, this wheel, on the edge, because the blade is never going to get there. You're going to have a little bit long section of grass. What I can do is I can raise this wheel or lower that one, and then just put one side of wheels on the pavers, and it's fine. It will have a level cut, and you don't have to worry. I'd probably have to be lowering this one if you want a level cut, but if you only have one adjustment, you can't do that. If you don't have a weed eater, because like I said, this is a more important of an investment to make, especially in the beginning, you're just going to have a weird little area. It's going to have an angle. Just, now if you don't care, go, that's fine. But no, that will happen. So that's something that I never understood why everyone was super excited about. So take that as you will. But yeah, I think that's really about it. Like I said, if you have any questions, definitely leave them, and put a thumbs up if you like it. If this helped you, let me know which one you bought. If you know anyone that is having a little bit of a questions, feel free to guide them this way, or leave me a message as well. Okay, have a good night. See you later.